Well, hey everyone, thanks for checking out my video of my interpretation of Nutville by the Buddy Rich Big Band. And that was my first attempt at using a DAW and moving into the 21st century with drum recording and melding it with video. Anyway, my story here today, and thanks for tuning in. If you would like to get some more stories, gig stories, and gig encounter stories with famous musicians and some actors like Bob Hope and Alan Thicke and Phyllis Diller and some of those folks, I've got some good stories coming your way, including one about Stevie Ray Vaughan. I hope you checked out my video with my gig, my one-off gig with Diane Shure, Deedles, and kind of hair-raising at times. A great experience, and a really wonderful musician, Diane Shure is. But kind of an intense few moments here and there during the rehearsal and on the gig, but you can check that out later. I first became aware of Buddy Rich probably when I was quite young, maybe 10 years old, because I knew that he was a great drummer and he was kind of a household name, and he was always on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And of course he was just an amazing player, and had his run of fame with Artie Shaw in the late 1930s, and then with Tommy Dorsey, and then his own bands. And of course he's worked with so many famous people, but chops unlike anybody, and so intuitive and so expressive. It's just amazing what Buddy could do. I was very fortunate to have parents that were incredibly supportive of me and my musical endeavors. And when I turned 12 years old in 1976, my mom said, "For your birthday, Jim, I've decided that you and I would go and see the Buddy Rich Band." And I'm like, cool. Because I didn't know much about it, but I knew Buddy Rich was like amazing. And so she got tickets to see Buddy Rich and Killer Force, as he was calling the band at that time. The concert took place at the University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, in the arena. You know, whatever big concerts came to town, that's where they often held them, because they could seat, I don't know, a few thousand, maybe 3,000 or something like that in there. So we went to the show, and I could see Buddy. We weren't sitting real close, but we were maybe something like 2/3 of the way back, but I could clearly see him and hear the band, and I hadn't really experienced serious big band playing up until that time. It wasn't a religious experience, but it was similar in that maybe it's like the first time you hear the Christian gospel, you really don't know what that was quite all about, but you want to hear more, or you go, something about that is just true. That's just great. So it was like that. I was like, when we left, I was like, what just happened to me? It was intense. It was furious. It was just sonically overwhelming, I think. And of course, being in that basketball arena, which I later played in with and opened a show for Stevie Ray Vaughan, it was kind of a barn of a place, acoustically. So sonically, it was intense. It was incredible. But it was a great experience, and I loved it. And after the show, I went up to the stage, and I was looking at his Slingerland kit with the 2 floor toms and Zildjian cymbals, and just looking around. I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. And I was later to learn that one of my brass customers, Tom Baker, played trumpet with Buddy in 1976, and then again later in 1978. So he did who knows how long he was with the band. I mean, it could have been days, it could have been months, but I think he was with them was with Buddy for a few months at least in '76. So I may have heard him play as a young kid. I don't know any of the band personnel. It was a good concert. Fast forward a few years, I started that experience set me off on a bit of a quest, and then I went out and bought my first recording, I should say album, which was the Gene Krupa record, and it was Gene Krupa Buddy Rich drum battle, the original drum battle, it said, and I think it was recorded at Carnegie Hall in like 1955 or something like that. But on one side of the record, it's like Willie Smith and Hank Jones and Gene Krupa, like saxophone, piano, and drums. Other side, there might be a couple more songs, but like that's the Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa drum battle. And of course, you know, at the time I'm like, who's better, Buddy or Gene? Buddy or Gene? Well, looking back after you learn something about drums, it's like, you know, Gene was a fantastic player and so musical and so syncopated groove. But Buddy Rich was just like, he was like, I mean, a machine gun chops. You know, he was just like the chops king. And still, you know, I mean, who can play those single stroke rolls like that? Okay, you know, you've got your Jojo Myers and you got some of these Brazilian dudes that can just with one hand, and it's amazing. But anyway, it was an incredible experience. So it was a great experience, but I wanted to explore Buddy Rich more, so I bought that album, the Gene Krupa Buddy Rich original drum battle record, and which I still have. I'll put a picture up. I used to stay up at night when it would be known that Buddy Rich was going to be on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And so I would stay up at night and I would record the conversation that Buddy and Johnny would have. And one night he was on with Tony Randall. Buddy was on with Tony Randall. And they were bantering. And it was just hilarious. I still have that tape somewhere laying around in my collection of junk that you can clearly see. But that was a really fun thing that I used to do, and I did that for a couple years. I didn't record every one of them, but Buddy Rich was clearly like an icon that I was like, whoa, this dude is somebody to know. So in 1982, I got the chance to meet Buddy Rich, and the story on that is he came to Eau Claire, Wisconsin to play a concert with his band. And it was at the Civic Center. They just called it the Eau Claire Civic Center. And it wasn't like a civic arena. It was more like this huge ballroom that could be divided down for, you know, you could have, I don't know, 3 different sections in that place. In a place where I played big band gigs myself later on, or about that time, and played weddings and things like that there. But anyway, Buddy Rich was there, and so I got tickets. I mean, I was like, if I wasn't first row, I was like second row, and Buddy was there, not 10 feet away, and so I was able to just like zero in on him, and that experience was incredible because it was almost hypnotic at times. Especially when he would get into a solo and he would start doing this stuff, it would almost drive you into a state of, I don't know, it was a combination of the sonics and the awe and just it was almost like a sacred reverence for what he was doing. It just was like really, really intense. And anyway, wonderful show. And he did some amazing playing. And so like his concerts often were, they would play an hour and 10 minute set, and then they would take a break, and then they'd come back and they'd play another hour. So you got a good show when you went to see Buddy. So they played their first set, and they said, you know, said, we'll be right back. You know, that's Buddy would talk. Hey, yeah, everybody, how's it going? You know, that kind of thing. He kind of had this You'd have to you can listen to him. I've played with some of the greatest musicians in the world, and you come back here and you play like that for me? How dare you? You know, he had that kind of, I don't know, New York and hip, whatever. That's how he talked. So during the break, everybody kind of milling around, and I walked outside, and outside, parked along the curb, was the Buddy Rich tour bus. Okay? And so I'm going out there, and I'm just like, you know, catching some fresh air. And it's like, yeah, the tour bus, that's cool. But parked right behind the tour bus was this beautiful pale yellow Duesenberg. Now, if you know anything about Duesenberg cars, they were built like from 1920 to about 1941 or 42, I think, in America. And these were like super hip, super high class. Side pipes or pipes coming out of the engine. These pipes winding down, you know, and down to the sides. Now, I don't know if it was a real Duesenberg or a replica, but it was really sweet, and it was convertible, so the top was down, just beautiful. And it was sitting there, and at the time, I was really into big band stuff. I was into The Who. I was into Keith Moon and that whole aesthetic, okay? I was into Maynard Ferguson. Maynard Ferguson always had jumpsuits, right? And Keith Moon had a white jumpsuit with the red, white, and blue striping around the sleeves and down the side. And he'd have like a SO, you know, like gasoline or STP and all these like automotive type things sewn on his jumpsuit, right? You've seen the pictures. Well, I had my mother make me a white jumpsuit specifically for playing gigs and doing big band shows and concerts. The jumpsuit that I had made was white polyester, of course. This is the early 80s, with the red, white, and blue striping around the sleeves and down the sleeves. And I had on one side my name, Jim. On the other side, I had this patch that said driver in blue. So I had my name in blue, driver in blue. And I always figured, you know, like the drummer in a big band is the driver. You're the bus driver. That's what they always said. That's what Ed Shaughnessy would say. That's what all those guys would say. Yeah, you're like a bus driver. You got to control this big rig. And so that was kind of my thing. So I'm wearing this white jumpsuit with red, white, and blue. It says driver on it, and I'm standing next to the curb looking at this Duesenberg, just kind of admiring it. And all of a sudden, this guy, I'm like at the time 5'10", a little shorter than that now because of age. This guy comes out who's about 5'5", maybe, a little shorter than me. And he's like, bad car. That's a bad car. And he looks at me and goes, is that yours? And I said, no, it's a bad car. I said, great playing, buddy. He goes, thanks, bad car. Yeah. And he walks off and he gets on his tour bus. And I'm like, I'm just kind of absorbing the moment. And I'm like, and my girlfriend's standing next to me. And after a few minutes, we turned around to go back in, and I'm like, wow, that was quite an experience. And she says, what? I said, the dude in the yellow sweater? That was Buddy Rich. And she goes, no, really? I'm like, hello, lady. Good Lord. I said, yeah, that was Buddy. She goes, I didn't even notice him. I'm like, yeah, he was like, is that your car? And I'm like, no, bad car. Nice playing, buddy. Thanks, bad car. That was it. It was like I said, nice playing. He said thanks, and he just moved right on. Bad car. So that's my Buddy Rich encounter. I never saw him play live again after that. And again, I'm sure that was 1983. It had to have been. It had to have been 1983. And it was about May or so, May or June probably. But a really great concert, and to get to say just a couple of words to your drumming hero, and just to kind of have that brief exchange shoulder to shoulder, that was a pretty neat thing. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the bad car, the story with Buddy Rich. Stay tuned if you like this kind of thing. You know what to do, but you got to click the notifications. And the better thing to do even would be leave some comments, because I like to try and answer all comments if I can, or answer any other questions. Oh, the jumpsuit. Do I still have it? Well, when my mom moved out of her home and we got it prepped to sell about 4 or 5 years ago, I looked at it and I'm like, this has been hanging in her stuff, and I don't need it. I'm moving it on. So I donated it, and somebody's got a white jumpsuit with Jim and Driver on it. Probably not. They probably threw it in the garbage. But I've got pictures, and you saw the picture, and there you go. My next goal is to get a Duesenberg with the side pipes, so I can drive a really bad car. Thanks a lot.